I'm Robin from Strobe Technologies, and welcome to our ITarian webinar on remote control for clients. Now, this remote control for clients webinar is slightly different from our previous remote control webinar, as this one is aimed at allowing your customers, not you as the MSP, but your customers, be able to use the ITarian platform to access their own machines in the same way that you do. Now, for example, in the current circumstances, COVID-19, where people are working remotely, this is a very, very useful facility. Anyway, let's run through how we configure this. So the first thing you need to do is log into our ITarian portal, so we can actually then start configuring some roles and setups that we need. So everything we're going to do is going to be under Endpoint Manager. So if we go to Applications Endpoint Manager, we'll let this load up. Okay, so what we need to do is talk about users. So we expand our users group. Now we're going to start with roles, because you need to configure your roles of what the users can do before you create your users. So if we go to role management, and what we'll do, I can see we've already got a test for role remote here that I created earlier. So what we'll do is we'll edit this one here and we'll go through. So here is our role. We've got three sections. We've got permissions, who's part of the role, and what does the role allow you to access customer wise. So first thing you need to do is make sure under permissions we get this right. So you can see we've got an apply to all, which probably don't want to be doing, because that will give them access to everything inside Endpoint Manager. So that means they'll have dashboard, devices, templates. So we want to be quite selective of what we do. Now, you don't want them as a read-only user, because once again that still gives them access to whatever, but to read details only. So we need to make sure that they can log in. So able to log in is perfect. Next thing we want to do is look at remote control. As you can see, by default everything is off, because when you create a role, the only thing they defaultly put on is that there. Everything else is configurable yourself, unless you hit the magic apply to all. So remote control, as you can see, we've got a few options here. We can turn remote control on, so it means that they can access the tool, which is a very good start. So it allows them to log into the remote control application. So you always need that one there on. The next one you need on is the remote-control.takeover. Now, as it says in the description here, it's rather faint. Allows to establish remote control session. Parent permission is remote control. Well, the parent permission is the one above, we've already turned on. So if we turn that one on, there we go. So if we, for instance, turn that off, there we go, you can't even alter the ones below. If you didn't have any of it on, it automatically turns on the required parent. So that allows them to connect to the PC and do what they need. Now that there is probably enough for most people. But interestingly, you'll see there's another parent or sub-parent with sub-children settings underneath. And that is to do with file transfer. So we can turn file transfer on and off. But as you can see from the parent description, allows you to view the files. Doesn't allow you to do anything else, just view. The next one, if you want, allows you to be able to copy files and update them. The next one, if you want to turn that one on as well, allows you to download a file. And the final one allows you to transfer a file. So it's a little bit but as daft as it is, if you turn that one off there, because this is the CRUD, you'll still be able to, as a remote user, transfer files to and from the computer. just there is some remote user access bits that you wouldn't be able to do. Now, looking at your scenario in, say, a security aspect of it, you might turn around and say, you know what, due to security, we're going to allow our business only to control a PC. So they basically can't take files out of the business. That means they've got to go back to traditional methods like email or using maybe Office 365 or whatever the case you use, and obviously any security permissions you put on that. So it's one of those that there is the option to limit for control, or you can enable everything. It's totally up to you. I'm a bit of a control freak, and I don't think people should be copying files away from the business. So I'm going to leave it with just the top two in our demo here. Now, as you can imagine and see from all the various bits here, there are all sorts of other rules and usage. Now, we don't want any other of these controls here, because this is all this additional stuff down the side here. So you don't need to touch any of that at all. Now, the main thing to remember with this is you need to hit the save button before you go onto any other of these tabs. Otherwise, your settings will be lost. And as you saw, I don't know if you noticed, there was a green pop-up here saying your settings were saved. Now, assigned users. Now, this here, it's one of those that, being honest with you, I would avoid trying to use this tab. It makes it really, really difficult. The easiest thing to do is do it via the user you want. That's the easiest way. But we'll cover that when we get into creating user accounts shortly. Access scope. Now, this is the most useful thing. By default, apply to all is on. So when you create your role, this role applies to all of your customers. Now, say we've got somebody who's in our default customer range. Now, by default, they've automatically got access to our US December 7 company, which obviously data protection and breaches is not correct. And they shouldn't have access, because if you're part of one company, you shouldn't be able to access other companies' computers. And that's not just for remote access under current COVID settings, that's all the time. Otherwise, you're going to get some really upset customers. So always turn off that, so you make sure that you're giving them access to their own company only. In this scenario here, we're actually going to use the US December 7 group. Now, you notice that there is a global for each one, which is green, and then there's a blue for the subgroups. Now, in our scenario here, we've only got one subgroup, but say you had multiple groups, you could turn around and say, you know what, I'm only going to allow you access to these particular PCs. So you might have a group dedicated for remote, or you might say have a group for servers, for instance. You might turn the servers group off, because as an end user, you don't really want them logging onto their server and accidentally shutting it off. So there's, depending on your business and your structure, you need to be careful about what you do allow them access to. So in our scenario, we're very, very plain and simple. We're just going to turn everything on because that's all we've got. Once again, hit the magic save button before you move to any others, and you get your green box up here saying it's saved. Now there's a role created. So anybody now that's going to get this test role for remote group is going to automatically have access to this company only with those devices only. So we're not going to be able to see anything else other than that. So that is our role. Next thing we need to do is look at the user, because these are the actual users that are going to access the system. Right, so let's create a user. So what we'll do, let's call this, let's do my name, shall we? Let's go, even though this is not a real address. Let's just do that. Now this is where it gets interesting because we get to choose what customer that they come under. So in our case, we're going to go US. I can't type US December. There we go. Now our role, test role for remote. Now these two do a very, very different thing. Because what's going to happen when we create this user is you're going to get two emails sent from Endpoint Manager, which I think the address is something like no reply at ITarian.endpointmanager.com or something like that. It's going to go to the email address that you put in this box here. One will be a activation email, so it allows the user to click on the link and set a password, which then once they've set, they're able to log in and then go straight away to the oh my god, I spit the words out, to their portal basically as them as a user. So they'll be able to see their permissions, they'll be able to raise help with ITarian about their account. Also, they can change their password if need to. One of the other things the portal allows them to do as well is if you've got two-factor authentication, or 2FA if you like to call it that, enabled, that's where they can scan their QR code or enter their code into their app to allow them to have the 2FA if you've got that enabled on your portal. So it allows you to have proper security for remote access and not just the username and password. So that's what customer does. The other thing it also does, I need to raise and just rewind on, is the second email you're going to get is about enrolling a device. Now, enrolling a device, as hopefully we're all aware, allows you to download the Endpoint Manager client and or the antivirus, and as part of that, installs it on the machine that you're currently on and registers it as part of the customer that they are assigned to. So for instance, if I went and installed that on this machine now, the machine that I'm using would then registered under US December 7. So it gives them the ability to register their own personal devices with the company. Now that's an interesting thing, and we'll cover that in a different video, or the bring your own device to work type job. But that's one reason why you choose the company. Assign role. Now this is literally down to the remote control that we made earlier. It gives them, when they log into the remote control application, it tells them that A, they got permissions to do so, and B, it tells them the computers we've assigned them the ability to access under the role management. Now I'm not going to create this here because obviously the email doesn't exist and I've already got something set up. So I'm just going to click cancel on that. But something we can do, for instance, if we click here, you can see we've got some useful tools at the top here. Now, unfortunately, you'll see some of these are grayed out. This is just a demo account. But normally, if you're the admin of your ITarian, or maybe you need to escalate it to the admin, they can do password recoveries or change passwords. They can do various things like this. They can even reset the two-factor authentication token if somebody's messed it up and they need to regain access. So obviously I haven't got those controls to show you, but that's something that you can do by going into user management. I don't think I've got it on that account either. Tick. Oh, there we go. I can actually, under the admin one here, I can send a password recovery or change password. So basically all that's going to do, change password allows me to type in a new password and I got to personally give it to the user. And password recovery email is the same email effectively that's being sent now by creating a new user. It gives them a link, they click on the link, they enter their new password, and away they go. So hopefully that is self-explanatory. So if we go away from that, What we'll do, we'll just take a moment just to say that I'll put on the screen in just a moment. There is a very good guide that ITarian do that you can follow as well. The link should be on the screen now. If you go to that, it is a nice graphical guide as well as me talking through all this. It's very, very useful and good. So it's something worth looking at. Now, we've got our environment set up. That's all well and good. The next thing you need to do is you need to distribute the remote software to your end user. Because unfortunately, the portal at the moment, there is no way of saying that they can log in to download the application. So you need to distribute the remote control software to them. But once they have a copy, it will update in the normal way that it does for you as the MSP. So let's go and run our remote control software. Now this is where you're going to have a huge difference straight away. By default, normally it's on ITarian, you enter your email address, you enter your password as the MSP. As the client and end user, you'll find that you have been given an endpoint manager account only. So you need to click on the grayed out word here. It almost looks like it's a title, ITarian Endpoint Manager, but it's actually a button you can push. So we need to click on that there, and it now changes the logon screen to give you 3 different options. Now there's the domain. Now the domain name is normally, what I'll do is I'll put in brackets here, so MSP name, it goes to, no, that's wrong, ignore me on that one. Give me 2 seconds, I will look this up for you, because it is very important. Just shows that my memory is not quite as good as it should be, but I am nearly there, so just a second longer. Right, okay, so it will be the MSP's name dot cmpm dot komodo.com. Now the MSP's name, you'll have to speak to your MSP for that. They should be able to provide that for you. If not, they will be able to at least turn around and ask in the ITarian forums, or they'll be able to raise a support ticket with ITarian to be able to get that for you. Once you've got that, your login name is whatever they've created for you. They should know that as they created it. And your password will be the password that you set using your link that you received in your email. Now you might even find that the domain and the login is included in your email. It's something that I will be honest, I've seen the emails and it's not the easiest thing to type of look at. So I probably looked at it quickly and overlooked these 3 bits of information. So it could be a case of you speak to your MSP or you just double check your email. Now, I'm just for the sake of ease and the fact that I've not got an endpoint manager account configured as a demo, I'm going to turn around and just log in using my demo account here just to show you how we actually use the endpoint manager client, as that is what we're all here for. Right, as you can see, after a successful login, it will defaultly give you a list of all devices. Now you'll see from our device list here, we've got one computer is online with a tick saying it's accessible. We then have another computer that's offline and not available, as it says with the no entry sign. And we've got another computer here offline with a no entry sign. You'll notice as well that they have a Windows or a Mac logo depending on the operating system. Now, we have various things we can do. We have all devices here, which gives us everything. We can limit our list to online devices, or we can, if you really want, list offline devices. If we just go back to all, we'll show you some other filters you can do with the buttons to the side here. Now, because I'm logged in with my MSP account, I can see all companies and subgroups. Now, in our scenario, we would only, in our role management, the role we set up, we'd only be able to see this company. So you'd only see that there list, and you'd see all of the subgroups. Now, I say all of the subgroups because remember we applied all to everybody. So if you say, for instance, had a servers group or something like you didn't want access to do and you unticked it, it wouldn't show in this list. So I'm just going to filter down. What we'll do, we'll filter on a group because you wouldn't do it on a company because you already have that. So say you had a group for, I don't know, say laptops, and somebody wanted a remote onto a laptop, you could click that there and it will give you access to only those devices. As you can see in this scenario here, in the default group, our Mac is actually not part of that group. So you can see it's no longer listed. The other thing you'll find as well, the icons to the side here, in our scenario, we turned around and we did not enable file transfer. So that button there should also not be displayed. It should only have this button here. So if we start a takeover session, we'll actually show you what you can get, do and see. Okay, there we go, we are connected. So as you can see straight away from our environment here, you can see we've got a remote control session saying that we're there. We've got the breakout button. So if you were an end user at a desk and being remotely supported, you could end the session or whatever else. Now, being that we are remoting on, we can happily click the X in that corner just to get rid of the notification. We don't need it. So that tidies it up. So we've now got a working space. Now, some people will be happy with the view as it is. Some people won't be because you've got like a window bar at the top and you can still see some of the desktop. So what you've got across the bar here is you've got some additional tools. You've got the full screen one, which as you can see blows it in and out. You've also got a view button here, which does pretty much the same, but you've got some additional options here. You've got full screen, what we just had. You've got a scaled fit, so it's going to scale your remote machine onto your machine as best as possible. So if we change it from best fit to scale, and then what we'll do is full screen, you notice this time now it's scaling it to make it fit my laptop screen instead of being the best fit. Now if I change to original, so it's going to display the remote machine at the original scale and size. So if I now go full screen, that's the original of the machine I'm connecting to. A little bit small and it doesn't use my entire laptop screen. So for us, the best option is scaled. You might notice, okay, it's increasing the size slightly. It's a very, very faint blurring of the edges, but not anything that anybody should really notice. But we'll just put it back to best fit just for the moment because it makes it easier for the menu at the top here to be seen. Something that is very, very useful as well is you've got our little lightning bolt here, which gives you some menus. Now these special menus are ascending, Control Alt Delete. So say you want to lock your workstation, or maybe you want to do an end task on a program. you would need to be able to do that. So if we hit that there, and you can see it brings up your standard Windows bits. Now that's very, very important to be able to use that and know about that, because if you did Control-Alt-Delete on your keyboard, it would activate that on your local machine, not your remote machine. And that's something to be very, very acute and aware of, especially for your end clients, which obviously a lot of this video is all about them and trying to help them, and also for them to watch this video because it should be useful. It's the idea at the end of the day is they need to be able to do that if they need to end a task or something. Locked session. Now that there is an interesting one. The idea is it should lock your remote session down and basically lock the computer and effectively close you out. I'm not going to do that in this scenario here, but say for instance you are remoted on from home, you're working on an office computer, you need to go and make a coffee or something like that. It's a very, very good idea to do that there and lock your session. It makes everything secure. It means that somebody's not going to in the office remotely just take over your keyboard and mouse. It also means it at home as well. Say your niece or your nephew's round, they pop in your type of home study area while you're making your coffee. It stops them tampering and messing things up. So that's always useful. Now we've got a couple more options here. We've got the pin, which that basically pins this menu always to the top. So instead of it disappearing like it has been so far, it's pinned there all the time. Now that can be rather annoying. So if you take the pin out, as you can see, it disappears. Just scroll to the top of the screen, it comes back. The other option here is minimizing the menu, removing what you don't need. So it gives you just the full screen options only, or you can maximize if you want some more information. Being honest, that's probably not going to be a very useful thing for most people, because you're going to want the view and you're going to want your additional commands. The only other thing you've got is the dots to the side here. If you click and hold on that, it should then allow you to drag it left and right. So say you do have it pinned, and we turn around and we say scaled, so it now fits the screen. Say you had that there and there was some text or something you were trying to read and it's in the way, you can click there and you can pull it out of the way. Being honest with you, unpinning it, much cleaner, tidier, and it also means as well, I know it doesn't matter where you go. Notice I'll go to the edges, the menu comes up no matter where you are, but if you remember it's in the center of your screen, it's just a lot easier. So that there is the remote control with the various options you can get. Now obviously if you're happy and you're finished, the easiest thing to do is close your maximize down to your window again, and then you can click the X in the corner and that will close your session. So I'm now disconnected from the machine. Now that there is probably not the best practice, as we said. If you're going away from your machine or something like that, if we just go and connect again, obviously this is a Windows environment. Mac and Linux are very, very similar in the way that you would secure your machine. Let's get rid of that for tidy sake again. So in our scenario, for instance, you would either click on test and sign out, because our user is called test. You would sign out to secure the remote workstation. You might even turn around and lock it if you're going to come back. Depends if somebody else is going to be using the machine. If it's a multi-user workstation that you're coming to, a sign out in this scenario is good, because then it allows the other person to connect. Then they get the log on screen. They can log in as their user for the business and get whatever they need. If it's your personal computer that only you access and you're out of the office, lock is perfect. But as this is only a demo, I'm not going to do that because this is a special demo setup for us and we've only got limited access. So I'm literally just going to close my session. As I said, you would secure your remote machine, then close your session in a normal world. Now that there is the remote control app and how to use all of its features. Something else to be very aware of is if we close the app, you think, oh, it's nice, it's closed. No, it's not. The app is always running. Now in our scenario here, we've got no icon down here. We just got the time, but we do have this little show icons button. You'll notice there is our app if we double click on it. And it's already logged in, so it's ready to go. I can go straight back in. It remembers where I am. Now if I hit the three dots here, you'll notice I've got a log out option and I've got an exit option. Now log out takes you back to login screen. Probably not very useful if this is my own personal machine. It's only going to be me logging into it, so log out is not too useful. But exit will actually close the application properly and it will not put it down here. The other thing you can do is if you right click on your icon down here, you have also the exit option there as well. So if we exit either way, you'll notice now it's actually gone. There is no application there. So it's cleaned up your machine. You don't have to worry about somebody come along behind you and trying to access your work environment. Obviously you could just log out to get the same security, but the application is still running using resources on your home machine. So it's just keeping it tidy so you don't have any problems or whatever else. Now that concludes our usage of remote control for your end clients. Hopefully this video has been useful. If you have any comments or requests of videos, please post these on the ITarian forums and we'll try and make the webinars for you to try and help you. Thank you for your time.